Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to this series all about resetting your business model. So February, we're in it, we're here, and we can feel March like popping up round the corner. I've already gathered 2 big bags of leaves this morning in the garden. I've got washing on the line, which no doubt I will be bringing in after this workshop because it will probably rain. But there are signs. There are signs in nature, in the air. And so I want to talk about this time right now because I think it's really crucial for seeing where we are, seeing what's happening. Maybe we made these goals in January of what 2025 was going to be about for us, and suddenly we can feel March around the corner. Those first 2 months have gone by. Things are beginning to emerge and move and blossom. And so I want to help you today to really be conscious about that process, because so often people will say things like to me, I can't believe how quickly this year has gone. And for me, I never feel like that because I really try to be intentional. I really try to check in. I really try and reflect and then work out where I'm going next. And that's a really important part for me. So today I want to talk about business models, but not necessarily in the way that you might expect. I'm not going to say that you've got to have 2 sides of A4 that are perfect that you can give to an investor. The people that I work with are generally not in that ilk, in that category. They are people who want to work for themselves. They maybe want multiple income streams. Maybe they want to sell a combination of products and services. And they want to not only do that in a way that it meets their money goals, but also all the other parts of their lives. And for the last 15 years, I've been talking about this notion of a life first business model. Because we are now at the stage with the brilliant internet, the World Wide Web, how we can make money in all kinds of different ways. And the great thing is we get to choose. We get to choose how we do that. And so if we get to choose, then you must choose. You mustn't just leave it to chance or hope for the best or just do what other people are doing. You get to decide and design and pull it all together in a way that feels great for you. So this is what we're going to talk about today. The first thing I want to say before we get into the training is I want you to grab a piece of paper and a pen, and I want you to begin from that place of just seeing what comes. So, you know, when you see those reset videos of a house, a wardrobe, a kitchen cupboard, a pantry, maybe that's just what my algorithm is serving you, but you'll sort of know because I'm sure you'll be in that process yourself, or sorting out a garden shed. In order to sort out one of those things, sometimes it's just a little tweak moment. But sometimes what we have is an opportunity to really see what's there, what's going on, what needs to actually come out, and what needs to be replaced, where you need to create space. And so I want you to do the extreme version today, where essentially you pull everything out. And I don't want you to be worried about how messy and ugly and unorganized and chaotic it looks in that process. That is the process, pulling everything out, because we haven't done the work yet. I want you to pull it all out and give it a good look. And as you are doing that with your business model, of course, there might be some things initially that you just say, oh, okay, I need to bin that. Or sometimes if you look in your wardrobe, you're like, why am I holding on to those tights from 1996? They don't fit me. They don't feel good. I never liked them in 1996. It's time for them to go. But I think that sometimes people just want to do the tweaks around the edge because that's the most comfortable, sort of pleasing on the eye element. And now maybe is not that time, especially because we are coming into nearly 5 years since 2020 and everything that happened. And many of my clients and conversations that I have with people have been around that fact that many people for the last 5 years have been in survival, adjustment, just seeing how things are. Maybe through that process, they've lost a bit of trust in themselves. They haven't wanted to be adventurous because they needed that recovery time. Maybe there have been some huge life circumstances that have changed in that time. And so that's needed time and space. But as we go into March and this next 5 years ahead, you're maybe thinking, oh, okay, now that it's time for a change. I certainly felt this when my daughter went to school. You know, I'd had a long time, 33 to nearly 42, of having small children at home. And suddenly they were both going to be in school. And that was a huge adjustment of a closing of a chapter and an opening of a new one. And it doesn't have to be something external that dictates that. We can have the choice to say, okay, let's draw a line under this. Let's open things up and see if there are any answers to come. So let's look in today's workshop, and I'm going to be here all day. I'm going to be popping up. So if you want to follow along, please do so. There's a timetable on my grid where you can see all the timings. The first question I want to ask you is, what is important to you? And I want you to begin to either make a list or maybe do one of those mind maps where you add the different categories. You think about the areas of your life. And I want you to give as much detail and specifics and textures and senses to each of these things. So you might put friends and family, for example. I want you then to break it down of what friends and family means to you. So my mum does this thing where she has a goal for her year, where she hopes that she's going to see all the people, her nearest and dearest, and spend time with them. And she takes out a diary and she writes down all of these details. And at the end of the year, it's like, oh, okay, that happened. I did that, or I didn't see that person. I must make a date with them for January. So friends and family, what does that mean? Does that mean that you up your time gap of when you reply to messages? Maybe you give yourself a deadline of like, do you know what? I'm rubbish on message and I haven't been a great friend. So now it's time to add that in. I'm going to endeavor to clear my WhatsApps every single night so I know that I'm straight, or whatever it might be. And I want you to go into those details, because if we are leaning into this life first business model, it's important what life first means to you. And this is the crux of it, especially in this world where there are experts, people are talking about success, people are showing people what they've got. And I want you to take a step back and really ask yourself, what resonates with you? What brings you so much joy? And I think that when I work with people in this goal setting capacity, sometimes they feel that the goals that they come up with have to be impressive or accepted by other people. And I actually love the detail of that sometimes it's like, do you know what? We would love to get to the seaside every single month. That would be really great. Or I'd love to buy a new car this year because the car that we have at the moment, everybody's a bit squished, and I've always had my eye on this dream car, or whatever it might be. So something substantial in that way. But there may also be people who have a goal that their weekend starts at 12 p.m. on a Friday afternoon. At 12 p.m. they're like, my weekend has begun, off we go. Not that kind of scrabbling 5 to 5 and just pure exhaustion, really making something of that weekend. So when you're looking at these important pieces of the puzzle, I want you to spend time there and really explore it, really see what's going on. The next thing I want you to think about is, what are the circumstances that you need to fully acknowledge and build your business around that? And again, what might happen is when we feel stuck, when we feel in that, I don't know what to do, we are looking for a solution and we are looking for maybe a process to follow. Like if somebody said, do these things for the next 10 days, and this will guarantee you all the answers to your big questions, you might be inclined to do that. But saying something like, see where your meditation journey goes over the next 3 years, would be like, yeah, that's kind of nice, but I'm gonna do the 10-day thing because that feels like I'm gonna get there quicker. And actually what you may end up doing in that 10 days is learning somebody else's system and being part of their process, not of your own. So at the end of the 10 days, you might have some answers, but suddenly a month later, you're like, oh, I got the answers, but they weren't the answers that I needed. And so I want you to think about your circumstances. And this is the work that I really do with clients because everybody's circumstances are different. Everybody's definition of success is different. And so especially when I've had people who are like, well, you're a mum, so you might want to do X, Y, and Z. Well, the mum that I was in 2019 when I had a 3-year-old and a newborn is very different to the mum that I am in 2025 with a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old. And it's also going to be very different to the mum that I'm going to be in 2030 when I have a 15 and an 11-year-old. I'm not quite ready for that moment yet, but you know, I've really learned that with parenting. You'll only serve the things when you're ready to receive them. Or that's how I'm hoping it's going to go. So I want you to really acknowledge your circumstances. And I think for so many people, they're trying to squeeze into a shape, into a pattern that maybe doesn't work for them. And what happens is when you squeeze, you constrict, you tighten up, you can't expand, you can't be the version of you that you want to be. And I've really learned that the hard way, I guess, is that, you know, when I had my son in 2015, I sort of hoped that I would carry on the same and just have a baby in the mix. And I really, I mean, that dawning came to me on week 6 of my pregnancy, when for the next sort of 6 months, I was throwing up 30 times a day. So very quickly, I realized, oh, okay, I'm now in a different place, very much so. I've now got different variables that I need to consider. So I want you to think about your circumstances and really listen to them and be open to working with them. And I think the temptation is sometimes, especially as women, we have this thing of like, I'll be whatever you want me to be. I'm so flexible. I'm so easygoing. I don't want to cause a problem. I can be adaptable. And yes, those qualities are within you. But in terms of your own life, imagine what could happen if you really leaned into those circumstances and work with that flow. I've talked about this all the time, that I'm not very good, or I'm not necessarily my most efficient, or how I like to work when I'm working and I'm parenting. And I'm doing that thing of trying to concentrate on sending an email and somebody's going, Mummy, can you just do this? And I don't like it when I've got a foot in each camp. And so my preference, even though I can't always have this, is to really acknowledge my circumstance, which then means that I schedule my work and I schedule when I'm parenting and see if I can do that. We're just coming out of the end of half term. And for me, that has meant I haven't been able to get as much work done, whatever that schedule is. It's a made up schedule, but it has meant that I haven't felt stretched the whole time. It has meant that my kids have had that awareness of when I'm working and when I'm not, and then things have been booked, so they're entertained, etc. Also, another thing that I want to say about circumstances is it will just allow you to work smarter, and it will allow you to have better boundaries. And I've really learned over the last 10 years, I would say, is to give myself wiggle room. That thing that I could do when I was 18 of like, oh, I've got to write that essay, I better stay up all night to complete it. Or if something came in when I was 24, I'd be like, yeah, no problem, I'll turn it around for tomorrow. And now I give myself more wiggle room. Now I give myself a bigger capacity. And then what can happen is I have more freedom within that. Rather than feeling like, oh my gosh, I've got to get all these things done. Where am I going to begin? How am I going to start? So have a think about how you can work with your circumstance. Number 3, your audience. Your audience and what you know about them is so important to how your business grows. And I want you to really tune in to where you go next and what you know people are looking for. I spoke about this recently, that my son has suddenly discovered books. I mean, you know, of course he hasn't just discovered them, but he's really connected with his reading. It's something he wants to do. He wants to explore more books. He's interested, and it's just such a beautiful thing to witness. And that moment where he goes on the back cover, and after he's enjoyed a book, or he probably does it before, to be honest, where he goes, oh, there's 21 more books in this series. How brilliant. Now, I have been doing this for a really long time. I qualified as a coach, nearly 15 years ago. And I've really learned that you can build a portfolio in terms of your business model that's going to do your selling for you. It's really going to connect with your audience whenever they choose. And so when we go back to my audience, or I want you to think about this in terms of you, my audience are looking at emails or on social media on the fly. So they may be looking at something whilst they're waiting for the kettle to boil. They may be sitting in a car park waiting for their child to come out of football. They may be sitting down on the bus, and that's when they're doing their emails, and so therefore reading mine. They are on the move. They've got many plates spinning. And so when I then create content, or when I structure my courses or the way that I work, I've got those people in mind. And so going back to that power of a series, I've really learned to categorize my marketing rather. So if people want to work with me for speaking, for example, they know that they can go onto a playlist on my YouTube channel, and all of my speaking stuff is there. So they get that power of a series. So what can happen is somebody might come to me and experience my work, and they see that first video, and then they go, oh, brilliant, there's another 56, because I've been doing this for a long time. So they can do all of that work. And then when they're ready, they come to me and they're like, I'm ready, let's go. I know about you. I've been watching you for ages. And I've really learned that pattern of behavior. And I think that one of the mistakes that people make in terms of audience is we're not seeing them as human people. We're seeing them as a Stripe payment or a Post-it note that somebody does on their wall during a launch. We have to go into the psychology of what kind of people these are. And I've always struggled with that question of what's your niche? What's it all about? Because I attract so many different types of people. But there are commonalities. There is a common denominator running through. And so what I have to do is look at those golden threads of what I see again and again, and structure my business model to support those people. Number 4, what does your personality really require of your business model in this time? So I want you to think about your own needs. And this is challenging for some people, because I know for lots of my clients, they're so used to doing all the things for everybody else. But to sit down and reflect and say, what do I want? What's important to me? That's a more challenging question. And so I want you to really think about this in terms of ease and flow, and how you like to work, and what things really pique your interest. And I have definitely discovered through this time, having tried different things, by the way, I love to work one-on-one. And I also love to work in a creative, this is in terms of my coaching, the other stuff, I have different rules, but I'm just using this as an example. I love to work one-on-one in that broad, wide, deep, intense, we've got this, we're running alongside each other type way. Or I love to create and really share what I have to offer in an online course, really break down that information. So those people in the car or last thing at night or while their kettle is boiling, they get to access all of that. And it's a brilliant thing. I know that I am not the best, even though I could do it, but it's not my choice. I don't want to run big group programs where I have to show up at the same time every single day and do that. I know that because the other parts of my business and life are not in alignment with that. I could get a day's filming. I could be at home with my kids. We had a surprise plot twist of chickenpox before Christmas, for example. I don't want to do customer service all day long. Where's the link? I haven't got this. How do you log in? I want that seamlessness in my business, that ease and flow, because that is when my personality can be elevated. When I work in that way, that's when not only does it feel good, but inevitably I will always make more money. It will always feel easier. I will always work smarter, not harder, and it will be a great thing. So I would love you to sit with that and see what that means to you. Finally, I want you to look at your business model. And interestingly, I haven't really mentioned money, but I am going to right now. And part 2, come back for that, is going to be all about money. I want you to look at the money versus the effort and be really aware. And what I am doing a lot with clients at the moment is really helping them unravel that relationship with hard work, with money, with always being on, with grafting, and seeing if there is an easier way. Because something like Chat GDP, you know what I mean? Why I always freeze when I say that. The AI stuff. That is showing us ease. That is showing us flow. And that is ahead. That is predicting what we know already. And so it isn't about working smarter. It isn't about doing the most things. And there are some influencers, for example, who can post something and receive thousands of pounds. That is a different model to somebody if they are charging £10 an hour or something, and that's how the money comes in. And so looking at that ease and flow, and this is not to say there will be no hard work and you won't even have to think about it and money will just flow to you and all the rest of it. But I want you to get to a stage with your business model where you're actually doing the parts of it that you love and it feels compelling. It feels like you're in flow. It doesn't feel like you're fighting against it the whole time. It doesn't feel resentful or frustrating that like, oh, I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't want to do that. What you need to do if you're experiencing that is to stand back and go, hang on a minute. What is going on here? What's happening? Where am I allowing gaps or leaks in my business? Where have I followed a formula that actually does not work for me? Where can I begin to mold this, to shape this, almost like a tailor would, where they may make like a fitted suit and then they go in and customize it and adjust it and make it bespoke and pull up the waist or lengthen the trousers or whatever they might do to fit that thing. We can, maybe, if we're lucky, pull something off the hanger and it just fit and it'd be great. But what we're doing here is really exploring that notion of what would happen if we tailored it, if we really thought about it and make it align with us. this completes our first workshop today together. Come back for part 2, where we're going to be talking about money. March is next week. If you would like to work one-on-one or do a strategy session with me, or join your personal brand plan where we work together for 100 days, we can do that. I've got a couple of spots left for March, and I would love to support you. I only work with a small amount of people at any given time because I am in contact every single day for that 100 days. Also, you don't have to be 100% of those 100 days. This is about really elevating what you have and really building that momentum and that flow. So if you want to set up a chat, send me a message and let's speak about where you want to go next and what solution might work best for you. As I mentioned, all of my work is bespoke to you. So I'm not going to offer something if I'm like, you don't need that. You just need a strategy session. You don't need 100 days. We could do this in a course or whatever it might be. So let me know what landed today. Send me an email. I would love to know, or a DM, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.